Welcome back to Daytime Ottawa. My next guest is a children's author and a fantastic edutainer, and he's got something really special he's putting together. Here to tell us more about it, I'm joined by Timm Holmes from Pieced Together StoryWalk. Welcome back.
Great to have you here, Tim. Thank you so much. It's great having me.
I mentioned a little bit about your background, of course. You know, you're an edutainer, you're a children's author. Tell me how that all started in your life.
Bedtime stories. My wife and I adopted 2 young boys. We were able to keep the brothers together. Our bond as a forever family was telling stories and reading books, and the stories I made up for the bedtime became my published books, and the recipe that created those books created a workshop that I build and has created this story walk that eventually,
Yeah, so what is a story walk exactly?
Story walk's not something new. It's something a lot of libraries across Canada and the US have been doing, and basically it's a blown up picture book on large posters, and you walk around outdoors with your family and friends and you take a walk, usually in a linear path. But with the Pieced Together Story Walk, we've taken a bit of a different approach.
All right, yeah. So how is yours different from your normal story walk that you'd see?
I grew up loving choose your own adventure novels, and so we put a choose your own adventure spin using the Pieced Together family, a family of anthropomorphic puzzle pieces that are doing a lot of different things. There's a calendar, there's a card game coming, there's all sorts of stuff with them happening. But the story walk, they're the stars of it, and you get to choose your own adventure and take different paths. You can take the story walk multiple times with your family and get a different story every time. The goal, of course, trying to find all 4 different endings that you can find.
I grew up with those stories, and they were just, they were so much fun. Like, I can't believe...
Did you cheat? Did you put the finger in the page?
No, I never cheated, I promise you. But for people that aren't familiar, you have to explain exactly what it is.
For sure. Well, I mean, maybe the best way to do it is to take a peek at the board we've got. Of course, we're offering it in a bilingual fashion as well. So we've got our French side here, and then if we flip it over, we've got our English side here as well. But basically, each time you've got 19 different story stops on your walk, and the walk in total is about 15 to 20 minutes. And you stop and you read the page, and then you have to make a choice. And depending on your choice that you make as to where the story might go next, your path will vary, and each story stop you make adds a different twist to the tale, as it were. So, like I said, take the story walk many times, you can get a different story every time.
Yeah, just that choosing your own adventure, and all of a sudden you're a participant, right, in the story. It makes it so exciting. You have collaborated though with the Heart of Orléans BIA. Tell me about how that collaboration came about.
Yeah, I reached out to them because one of the things we did. The example I have on the table here is from the Ottawa Public Library Story Walk that we did last summer. They hosted at 6 different locations. So I started reaching out and going, this was way too much fun. Who else could I do this with, right? So I started reaching out to the local BIAs, because we've done this as well with the Wellington West BIA previously. And Heart of Orléans hopped right on it. They thought this was the coolest idea for their neighborhood. And so now we have a small segment of Saint Joseph Boulevard that is dedicated to the story walk. And we'll be seeing that launch July 8th, coming up very soon. Yeah.
I guess a great way to discover your neighborhood, right? This is, you're going to be going down like the main strip, as you said, St. Joseph Boulevard, and maybe you haven't stopped into some of these areas.
A lot of times it's definitely more of a driving area than a walking area, but we picked a very safe spot to have families visit, so lots of crosswalks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a great way to investigate, and that's what we're doing this for, is to sort of support local businesses and showcase all the different wares and different situations that they have, and they're featured in the story. Not necessarily by name, but their products or their adventures are related to those businesses.
You mentioned you did this with Wellington West BIA. Tell me about the response. What was the response like in that neighborhood?
It was a really great. They are so passionate about everything they do in Wellington West. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's true.
The huge lesson we learned from there is we got a little excited about the walk, and we spread out the walk over quite a large portion of the area. Lesson learned. So this one is a much smaller base of operations for us, a much smaller map that we have. So we find a lot more families will be able to get involved in this one. Yeah.
Let's go back to your children's book. So you've been writing them for quite some time now. Tell me a little bit about some of the storylines and some of the themes you write about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest theme I walk away with is goofy and silly. And that feeds into the story walk stories as well, is that it is just about making silly noises, making silly actions, having a good time, going to bed with a goofy idea in your head. Every once in a while, if we can sneak a moral in there, sure, but it's not a guiding principle I have. I was out originally just to make my boys laugh at bedtime. It was only several stories later, my wife came to me and said, hey, guy who always wanted to be an author, maybe you should do something with these. And that was 7 years ago, and now here we are. And it's all sorts of different irons and different fires. And the bottom line, though, is to excite, inspire, and celebrate the creativity of the youth in Ottawa.
Yeah, and Tim, it's refreshing to hear, too. And sure, you have some, morals and so forth. But I think it's refreshing to hear that you're writing books that kids just find entertaining. And I think sometimes we forget that as adults, right? Everything's got to be a learning moment. Yeah, a lesson of some sort. But the lesson is you get to use your imagination and be goofy and have fun, right?
100%. I mean, I want to make that connection between reading, stories, and fun. And I want to give the tools to children as young as kindergarten to be able to be confident that they can build their very own stories. And I do it regularly with my Start a Story workshop. And that's that same pattern that we're using in the StoryWalk.
Did you have that growing up? Did your mom and dad, did they read?
Reading all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I was actually, guests would come over and I would entertain them with my memorized Snow White or Robert Munch's Mortimer.
Really?
Yeah, I was the entertainment for the guests.
I absolutely love it. So where does this start, the Pieced Together StoryWalk?
Pieced Together StoryWalk is going to start July 8th, Saturday, 11 a.m. We have a launch going on there, so we'll be there for a couple hours, getting folks acquainted with the whole system. But you want to go to the Great Green Front Lawn in front of the Gloucester Veterinary Hospital on St. Joseph. That is where you want to start your adventure. The starting poster will be there, and depending on your choice, you'll head left or right up St. Joseph and try to start discovering the endings.
Excellent. Tim, thanks for being here. It's
Thanks
always a pleasure having you. Again, July 8th to August the 30th, and you can find out more about Tim at timmholmes.com. We'll be right back.